Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 in our series on Hearts of Iron. We have defended France. It's now the 2nd of April 1940, and we have held the Germans at bay on our north and northeastern fronts, and the Italians haven't even had a go down here on our eastern front over the Alpine region down here. There has been heavy fighting in the Mediterranean, and there continues to be. And that is contested. At the moment, the British, look at that. Looks like the Canadians are coming in, and ourselves are fighting the Italians down in the Med. And of course, there's conflict happening in North Africa. We are actually being aided, excuse me, we're actually being aided down there by Australian division, which is encouraging, but that's for the good. But we have actually achieved our objective. We have defended France, and we've done it not perhaps in the normal way that you would have played, but we have done it nonetheless. So my thoughts on today are that we should wrap up. And the reason I say that is because to play the game forward now to what we hope will be the inevitable victory of the Allies will mean spending a great deal of our time holding our position, building up manpower and our units, but primarily, and in the first instance, defensively. And then when the, hopefully, Americans come, we will need to change or have also in our unit mix a great number of units designed for breakthrough and rapid deployment. In other words, we're going to have assault units versus defensive units. Now, the other scenario is, of course, that the Americans don't come. And it's just France, and we sit here eyeing off Germany for a great many years until something breaks. Either way, it's probably not going to be the most enjoyable of games. So we've done the opening, and despite mistakes that I've made, we've been able to survive and, in fact, do quite well. And how did we do it? Well, it turns out that, look at that. But let's go and have a look at this, shall we? While we're here. Where would we go next? Well, now we would just follow standard progression, I would think. Which is what we would do. So, where were we? Oh, yeah, how did we get here? Well, despite the mistakes, and there were a number that I made in setting up, we've done quite well. And we went through in our previous episode and discussed where we had deployed our unit. Primarily what we did was we drew everyone or all our ground units back from overseas. We drew all our naval units back from their foreign ports. We put, in terms of Navy, we put just about everything we had in the Mediterranean to stop the Italians from getting an easy supply run down into North Africa, and also eventually to knock the Italian Navy out and get mastery back of the Mediterranean, which would greatly restrict them. Secondly, when it came to our air unit, we put our air units basically in a U here. They're targeting the Mediterranean, and the only other thing they're doing is defending our fronts for our land unit. And then we deployed our land unit, just before we do that, before we actually deployed our land units, we did a little bit of thinking, and we decided to basically Maginot the French border up. So it's got fought all through the Alpine region down here. So this is good. We've got, we're fighting in the mountains, which gives us an advantage because we're dug in the mountains and we have fought. So that's very defensive. Then we extended the Maginot Line northwest along what used to be Belgium's border, and of course we shouldn't forget Luxembourg over here around Metz, and then we deployed our units across here. Now we put our best units, that is our largest divisions with our best troops, along here because the only added bonus they have, say west of the river, is the fortifications we put in. Until you get down here into the Maginot Line, where of course it's mountainous again and a river. But so our best troops were over here, our weakest troops in the Maginot Line, and good troops, but not our best, but not our weakest, down here on the Italian border. And we obviously put our Alpine divisions here, and some other units, which, they're not full strength units, you would say, but enough. And then behind those, we had cavalry down here near the Alpine region, and we have armored and, I was going to say mechanized, but motorized up here to fill in the gaps and to prevent any breakthroughs that might be coming. And it looks like we could hold this position for a great deal of time. The other reason is because we have manpower. I deliberately did not flesh out our units to full strength, because if the Germans or the Italians both had a serious go at our borders, we would have bled very heavily, and what we could not afford to do was run out of reserves to replenish our fighting division. That would have just been, well, that possibly would be what a human player would do. A human player, I suspect, would likely mount a seaborne invasion, although doing that in the Channel might be risky, but you could mount a seaborne invasion to come behind the line, and that would draw back our mechanized, our armored and our motorized to fight them. And then, of course, they will just punch away at the defensive line until we have nothing left to defend it with. And then that would be it. A single large sustained hole in, well, basically any of our defensive positions, and France is done for. That's pretty much it. And of course, our position is we're not in a position to retaliate at all. And we will only be in a position to retaliate if the Allies, including the Americans, pummel the Germans heavily and very much weaken them in strength. Now, the Russians may do the same thing if they go to war with Russia and deploy their division to the east, but that is still a little way away if it happens. So it's not at all clear how the game would play out, and I suspect that much of it would be stagnant, if you like, and that may not prove to be all that interesting. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, modern aircraft. Okay. So that basically is the situation we find ourselves in. And, well, as interesting as the game may be personally to play on, I think it would be rather tedious to watch. So I do actually feel that we've probably come to the end of this series, The Defence of France. Interesting though, and it is still very interesting, that France is defensible. And even though I've made a lot of mistakes, it's still defensible. It's a possibility, and one that you could do. It would be interesting to play out the game to see how it ended. And that I may do, but I'll do that offline for my own enjoyment. So that, I think, is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on this series. I will be doing a new series next week, not Hearts of Iron, but I think something different. So thank you very much. It's a very short episode because we're just wrapping up. And I hope you stay well, and would invite you to return to the channel at some point if some of the other videos that I put up are of interest to you. Bye for now.